Joining me now is Democratic Senator from New Jersey, Cory Booker. Senator Booker, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thanks so much. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you. Thank you for being here. I do have to start with President Trump saying he plans to deploy the National Guard to Los Angeles to deal with the protesters there. The president bypassing the governor and federalizing the Guard himself. He says he did so because Governor Gavin Newsom and LA Mayor Karen Bass refused to act against the unrest. What is your response to President Trump's decision to deploy the National Guard?
Look, since years before I was born, law enforcement knows it's good when there's cooperation and coordination. For the president to do this when it wasn't requested, breaking with generations of tradition, is only going to incite the situation and make things worse. We are now at a point where we have a president who sat back and did nothing as people stormed our Capitol, viciously beat police. And then when those people who viciously beat police and led to some of their deaths, therefore cop killers, were convicted by juries, he then pardoned them all. So for him to be talking to anybody right now about responsive law enforcement to protect people is hypocritical at best. The reality is we see peaceful protests launching in Los Angeles. And again, any violence against police officers should not be accepted. Local authorities can handle that. But remember, a lot of these peaceful protests are being generated because the President of the United States is sowing chaos and confusion by arresting people who are showing up for their immigration hearings, who are trying to abide by the law. He's arresting them. And you see this in communities that are Republican, Trump supporters, being outraged that he's raiding kitchens and arresting people, high schools and arresting people who are not what he said he would do, which is focus law enforcement resources on violent criminals and people that are a danger to other Americans.
All right, Senator, let's move on to Abrego Garcia, returned to the United States to face human trafficking charges more than 2 months after being mistakenly sent to El Salvador. In my phone interview with President Trump on Saturday, he called Senator Chris Van Hollen, your Democratic colleague, who of course went to El Salvador to meet with Mr. Abrego Garcia, a quote, loser. And he signaled that he thinks Democrats' support of Abrego Garcia will cost the party electorally. What say you? Do you think that Democrats made a mistake by making Abrego Garcia the face of the fight for due process?
Look, Chris Van Hollen is a champion for the Constitution because a threat to due process rights of anyone is a threat to due process rights for everyone. The President of the United States has been violating a 9-0 court order from the Supreme Court of the United States of America, including 3 people he put there himself. There is a unanimity amongst legal scholars that everyone has a right to due process, and anyone who stands up for that, even for people who are not as, don't inspire necessarily public adoration. We understand that in our nation, when you come after our Constitution, you are doing the wrong thing. And here's the challenge. Abrego Garcia is back, but there are over 250 people that Donald Trump has sent there, 50 of whom who entered our country legally, who did not get a day in court, who we do not know the truth or the facts of their cases, that have been sent not to a prison, but to a place that human rights activists have said is more of a gulag, where people's human rights are being violated.
Senator, let's now turn to the president's tax and spend bill. I want to read you a little bit of what Elon Musk has said about it. He calls it a disgusting abomination. He threatened to fire all politicians who backed it. He's arguing the bill doesn't do enough to deal with the debt and deficit. Do you agree with him?
Well, I agree that it's going to saddle this country with trillions of dollars of debt, endanger our entire economy. We've already seen Moody's downgrade our economy, therefore making it more likely that interest rates go up and more Americans are paying more. This is a bill that adds to our deficits in a colossal way. And for any fiscal hawk or someone who's fiscal prudent to be behind it, shows that they are hypocrites and that they are more in allegiance to the president than sound fiscal policy. But here's what makes this bill even worse. Americans will pay so much more in order to give tax cuts to billionaires. The average healthcare premiums for Americans will go up about $900 a year. The average energy costs on Americans will go up about $250 a year. We will see 16 million Americans lose their health insurance, and millions of children lose their food supports. This is a morally wrong bill, and it's definitely an economically wrong bill as well.
Well, Senator, Congressman Ro Khanna says that Democrats should be open to working with Elon Musk. So let me ask you, would you personally accept money from Elon Musk if he were to support your reelection campaign, for example?
Let me just tell you, we're stuck in this right-left divide right now. I will partner with anyone, like I did in the last Congress, putting my vote alongside of John McCain's, Lisa Murkowski, and Susan Collins to stop the tearing down of the Affordable Care Act. This is not about right or left, it's about right or wrong. And this bill is disastrous for the average American driving up this cost. This bill is disastrous for our long-term economy. This is an American issue, and I welcome Elon Musk, not to my campaign. I welcome him right now, not to sit back and just fire off tweets, to get involved right now in a more substantive way in putting pressure on Congress people and senators to not do this.
But Senator, let me just put a fine point on this. Would you accept money from Elon Musk if he were to give it to you, and should other Democrats?
I would not accept money from Elon Musk for my campaign, but I would be supportive of anybody, including Elon Musk, putting resources forward right now to let more Americans know, sound the alarm, treat this like a Paul Revere moment. More Americans have to understand that if this bill passes, average Americans are going to see their costs skyrocket as this president again pushes legislation that is indicative of his chaos, corruption, and cruelty towards Americans.
Senator, let's talk about the Democrats. The Democratic primary for New Jersey's gubernatorial election will be held on Tuesday. I don't have to tell you that. This comes as Democrats are still struggling with their messaging. Quite frankly, notably this week, former President Biden's press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, switched her party affiliation to Democrats. A lot of the gubernatorial candidates are to independents, a lot of the gubernatorial candidates have been very critical of the party. Do you think that Democrats have to distance themselves from the party brand in order to win?
Well, again, I think that Democrats right now all across America should be less concerned about the Democratic Party and more concerned with the American people. There's a trust problem for Republicans and Democrats. Most Americans voted against both of the presidential candidates in the last election. We need to start standing up and showing we're fighting for Americans right now. And when we have a president that is driving a bill that's going to rip health insurance away from 16 million Americans, drive up premium costs for 93% of Americans, don't sit around and worry about party and elections over a year from now and on the federal sense. Show that you're a fighter, get in the arena, roll up your sleeves, and start working on behalf of the American people. I'm excited about New Jersey's primary. I'm going to support whoever comes out of it. But my work right now is to stop this disastrous bill that's in the Senate.
Senator, you haven't endorsed in this race. Do you plan to do so? Would you like to do so right here?
I'm going to endorse the winner of the primary. I'm going to be in New Jersey working up and down the ticket. And here's the great thing. Every special election we've seen right now has seen record energy and turnout in America. People understand the consequences of elections. They're living them right now. But again, we have work today. We have work this week. More people. Please get involved, from Elon Musk to people in my neighborhood on this block. We all have a responsibility. But bill this threatening to the well-being and the fabric of our country, do not sit down. Democracy is not a spectator sport. Get more involved. Do more, because what's going to happen if this bill passes to our neighbors, to the sick, to the elderly, to the disabled is unacceptable.
All right, Senator Cory Booker, thank you so much for joining me. We really appreciate it.